Welcome back, everybody, to another deep dive. This one's going to be interesting. Today, we're diving into the world of online personalities.
Oh, boy.
Specifically, we're looking at a guy named Zak Osborne, or Zak, as he's known online.
Okay.
And I'm excited to dive into this one because a listener sent over a collection of forum posts and some YouTube transcripts.
Yeah.
They want to understand this guy better.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, these sources, they paint quite the picture.
Sounds like it.
Yeah.
So it seems like Zak is pretty active in a lot of these online communities, especially these communities focused on alternative media.
Oh, okay.
And internet culture, that whole world.
Oh, yeah. And one term that keeps popping up to describe him is goon.
Yeah.
And the descriptions are wild.
Right.
It's clear that this term has a very specific meaning.
Absolutely.
Within these online circles.
Yeah, in this context, a goon, it goes beyond just someone who spends a lot of time online.
Right.
It kind of encompasses this whole set of traits and behaviors.
Oh, wow.
That often revolve around media consumption, what they call consuming. Consuming specific hobbies and even sometimes political leanings.
Okay, so let's unpack this whole goon concept like a little further. One forum post compares Zak to this whole roster of infamous internet figures, and it says he has the voice of Santa Cruz Joker.
Oh, wow.
The body of Robert Robinson.
Oh, my goodness.
The stolen valor of Michael Wright.
Wow.
The hobbies of 𝓅𝑇𝐿𝐼𝐿.
Interesting.
And the ego of ┬ż. The ultimate goon package.
Wow.
It's fascinating how this community uses these very specific references to define its own in-group language and humor.
Right. This description, it is pretty funny, but I think it also reveals a lot about the anxieties and desires of these young men online today.
Yeah.
You know, it's about belonging, rebelling against perceived societal norms, and finding humor in kind of the absurd.
Right.
You know, these references, while they're very specific to this certain corner of the internet,
right,
it really gives us a glimpse into how these communities form and define themselves.
Right. It's like a secret code almost.
Yeah.
And speaking of codes, the post also mentions Zak's whiskey shelf updates.
Oh, yeah?
Is that some kind of goon ritual?
It's a great example of consuming that we were talking about.
Okay.
Zak, like a lot of goons, seemed to define himself through his consumption of media and products, in this case, whiskey.
Yeah.
And these shelf updates, they become a way to kind of showcase their identity and connect with others who share similar interests.
So it's not just about the whiskey itself.
No.
It's about the act of displaying it.
Right.
Sharing it online.
Exactly. It's about creating this online persona and finding validation within these communities.
Right.
And then you have the mention of his drunken fall into the TV.
Oh, yeah.
Which again seems to play into this self-deprecating, almost cartoonish image.
It definitely paints a picture of someone who's not taking themselves too seriously.
Yeah.
But the post also touches on Zak's political views, describing him as anti-Israel, anti-tax, and harboring some white grievance beliefs.
Right. And this kind of adds another layer to understanding this whole goon archetype.
Okay.
While it might seem like all fun and games on the surface,
yeah,
there's often a darker undercurrent of political ideology kind of at play.
So it's not just harmless online antics.
Not necessarily. While humor is definitely a key element, it's important to remember that these online spaces can also be breeding grounds for more extreme viewpoints.
That makes sense. Well, the forum post gives us a general overview.
Yeah.
You also sent us a YouTube transcript.
Right.
Of a Discord server conversation with Zak and several other people. And it sounds like things get pretty wild.
Yeah. It's a chaotic conversation full of profanity and banter.
Yeah.
But it provides some really valuable insight into how Zak actually interacts in a live setting.
Oh, wow.
And this raw, unfiltered interaction can reveal even more about his personality than maybe a curated forum post.
Let's dive into that transcript then.
Let's hear it.
And see what we can uncover.
Yeah. So one of the things that jumps out immediately is Zak's confrontational nature.
Yeah.
He's quick to insult and argue using pretty aggressive language that wouldn't really fly in most social settings.
Yeah. There's a moment where he calls another user fat autistic and just goes on this whole tirade.
Right.
It's pretty intense. But isn't there always like an element of performance online?
Yeah.
How can we truly know what's genuine and what's part of the act?
Right. That's the million-dollar question.
Right.
You know, it's possible he's playing up this goon persona
right.
for shock value or entertainment.
Right.
But even if it's an act, it still reveals something about the culture of these online spaces, where aggression and boundary pushing are often rewarded with attention.
So even if it's not his, like, true personality,
yeah,
he's still engaging with these behaviors because they get a reaction.
Exactly, and it feeds into the dynamics of these online communities, which can often become echo chambers for extreme viewpoints.
I get what you're saying about echo chambers, but isn't Zakk's confrontational style also a way of seeking attention?
Oh, absolutely.
Even if it's negative attention.
Absolutely. It's a form of validation, even if it comes in the form of insults or arguments.
Right.
And it's something we see across various online platforms,
yeah,
not just these niche communities.
It's interesting how something as simple as like an insult can become a currency in these spaces.
Right.
But alongside the aggression, there are also these moments where Zakk uses humor.
Right.
And seems to genuinely enjoy like the back and forth banter.
Yeah, and this highlights this complex interplay of aggression and humor that's so prevalent in online culture.
Yeah.
It's a way of building camaraderie.
Yeah.
Even if it comes at someone else's expense.
It's like a twisted form of bonding, I guess.
Yeah.
But there's also this clear tech savviness to how Zakk navigates the Discord server.
Yes.
Like he knows how to use its features like banning or muting to control the conversation.
His manipulation of these features, I think, shows a real understanding of how online power dynamics work.
Okay.
He leverages these tools to control the narrative and silence dissenting voices.
Right.
Which is a tactic we see often with these types of personalities.
It's like he's figuring out how to game the system to his advantage.
To his advantage.
And speaking of advantages, his anti-Israel stance comes up again in the transcript.
Yeah.
This time with even more passion and anger.
Right. And his staunch libertarian stance seems to clash with his earlier views on refusing service to trans individuals, which he seemed to support.
Right.
This could be an example of what's often called like selective libertarianism.
Okay.
Where individuals kind of pick and choose which freedoms to champion based on their personal biases.
So it's not really about consistent principles.
No.
It's about applying those principles selectively to fit their own worldview.
Precisely. And it's a pattern we see not just in online communities, but also in broader political discourse as well.
This deep dive is really starting to connect some dots for me.
Yeah.
But there's one incident in particular I have to ask about.
Okay.
The pickle pill.
Oh, yes.
It's just bizarre.
The infamous pickle pill. This incident where he repeatedly demands another user take the pickle pill. It raises some really interesting questions about how these online rituals and inside jokes can be used for manipulation and control.
He even goes so far as to say that they already took it by simply joining the server. It's like some weird initiation ritual.
And that's what makes it so fascinating.
Yeah.
It highlights the strange power dynamics that can emerge in these online communities.
Yeah.
You know, something as seemingly innocuous as a pickle emoji can become a symbol of belonging.
Right.
Or in this case, a tool for exerting control over others.
To really grasp this, let's hear the actual audio of Zakk demanding the pickle pill.
Okay.
It's something else.
All right.
Okay, we can do that.
I never last quietly licked a girl's asshole in my life.
It's really something. It really highlights how much of a product of these online environments he is.
Right.
This space where humor and aggression and extreme viewpoints often collide.
Yeah.
It's wild.
And that brings us back to the initial request to understand Zakk better. What have we learned about him through this whole deep dive?
I think it's clear he's a product of the online environments he inhabits, like we were just saying.
Right.
A space where humor, aggression, extreme viewpoints, they often collide. He's tech savvy, he's quick-witted, knows how to manipulate the dynamics of online communities to gain attention and exert influence.
But it's not all fun and games, right? We've seen these glimpses of a darker side to him, too.
Yeah, for sure.
The aggressive language.
Yeah.
Confrontational nature. The concerning political views.
Exactly, and that's where this deep dive gets really interesting. It's not just about understanding Zakk as an individual, but about understanding the broader implications of these online communities.
Right.
And the personalities they cultivate.
You're right. It's easy to dismiss it all as just internet noise, but as we've seen, these online spaces can have a real impact on how people think and behave.
Yeah, and that impact can spill over into the real world.
Right.
The line between online and offline is becoming increasingly blurred. And the things people say and do online can have very tangible consequences.
So what does this mean for someone like Zakk, who has a following and a platform to spread his views?
Well, it raises some important questions about the responsibility that comes with online influence. Whether he intends to or not, Zak is shaping the views of those who follow him. And those views can have far-reaching implications.
It's a lot to think about. Seems like Zak is almost a microcosm of the larger trends we're seeing in internet culture.
Yeah, I think so.
The humor, the aggression, the extreme viewpoints, it's all there, amplified by the dynamics of online communities.
And it leaves us with this final provocative thought, I think, to consider. As online spaces become increasingly influential in shaping our worldviews, what does it mean when individuals like Zak, who embody both like the entertaining and the troubling aspects of this culture, gain a platform and a following?
It's a question we all need to grapple with as we navigate this ever-evolving digital landscape.
Absolutely.
A huge thanks to you for bringing us this fascinating deep dive topic.
Yeah.
It's certainly given us all a lot to ponder.
It's been a pleasure exploring this with you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And remember, the next time you find yourself down an internet rabbit hole,
oh, yeah,
think about the forces at play and the personalities that shape these online spaces. You might be surprised by what you uncover.
Absolutely.